why did you take that decision?
They were able to transmit to me the information about what is this world that we live in with its good and bad side. Africa is the greatest nation. We have the resources, we have the minds, we have the capacities, we have everything. Having by the way, I was Tunisia's ambassador to the Maldives United Nations, and then I was the regional director of North Africa and the Middle East, and then North Africa and East Africa, and then I was just an international director, so I can just take care of everything in a whole. For the opportunity to talk about this, because one of the things I care deeply about is investing in young Africans.
This is not what you people usually understand. Europe need Africa. Hello, everyone. I thank you for joining on today's episode of the Obehi Podcast. My name is Obehi Ewanfo, and I'm the host of this podcast. I'm happy to have with me here an interesting lady who is doing something incredibly beautiful. She's joining us from Tunisia, that is Africa, and I'm here in Italy. It's a beautiful thing for us to be able to connect. You know, sometimes within the African diaspora, we will say that there are many people that we only know ourselves here in the diaspora, whether we should have known ourselves far more in Africa. This is whether, even just to give you an instance now, my wife is coming from the same city that I am. Not even a city, because Uromi, where I'm coming from, is not even a city. It's a small town. I met her here in Verona. So where I'm living is where I met her. So we met in Europe. Now we're married. So we both understand that we are coming from the same small part of Nigeria. So this is what happens sometimes. So even when we live where we are born, we begin to make more connection, even more with other people that we should have already know ourselves from there. And that is something I think is really beautiful. Anyway, so for those of you that are maybe here for the first time, I encourage you to make sure you subscribe to this channel. And why not share also with your friends, those who believe might get value from what we are offering here. We share a lot of stories about what we do, why we do what we do. That is actually what we are going to be talking about today with Melek. In that people need to be able to connect to you as, again, just connected to what you are doing. So we sort of lay emphasis more on that. All right, Melek, thank you so much for being here. Could you say something about yourself? Correct me if I'm wrong on how to pronounce your name. So that is also something I'm ready to learn.
Thank you so much, dear Obehi, for the invitation. You have perfectly pronounced my name. My name is Melek Belloumi. I am, yes, that's great. Applause for that. I am Melek Belloumi. I am from Tunisia, a small coastal city called Nebel that I urge everybody to visit, by the way. It's very beautiful. You're welcome in my hometown. I am a social entrepreneur, a soft skills trainer, a youth advocate, a diplomatic expert, and a public speaker. I am very excited to talk more about these things and to share my experience with people who can relate to that. I believe I have a purpose, and I believe I have a mission, and I'm very excited to inspire, to guide, and to learn myself. Thank you so much.
All right. That is beautiful, Melek. I really appreciate that. I really do. Today, in this day and age, it is important to lay emphasis on social entrepreneurship. Those type of entrepreneurship that are not just for the profit. Of course, profit is interesting. Nobody can deny that. But when that profit is tied to the kind of service that we render to other people, then it comes to make even more sense now. So I remember what Muhammad Ali was saying, that the service we render to other people, that is a rent we pay here on earth. So I think that should really make sense to a lot of us, that we need to look at the people around us and see how we are impacting them in a positive way. So I think we actually started this conversation in a very nice note in what you are saying, that you have a purpose. There is a purpose to what you are doing. And this is fundamentally important for me. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
All right. So my first question now is actually the way that we go here in Obehi Podcast is that we take the time to learn about the guest. So you're going to help us to learn about you now, where you grew up. So take us to when you were maybe a teenager growing up in Tunisia. What do you want us to see through your eyes?
Sure. Oh, that's a really beautiful question. You're making me nostalgic right now. So, Melek as a teenager. So, as I said, I grew up in a small city, a very small and tight-knit community in the coast of Tunisia, in the city that's called Nabil, specifically Bnekhiya. I would say that growing up, I was and I thank God for this. I was privileged enough to have a very supporting system behind me. That is my family first. My family has always been by my sides. They have always made me believe in myself. Starting from a teenager, I didn't have much to do. I'm not the same person as I am right now, of course. At that time, my focus was mainly centered on my studies. Of course, I've always been the brilliant student of the class, and I can see the pride when I look at myself in the mirror, first of all, I can say that I'm proud of myself for having a positive outcome of the studies that I'm making at that time. And also having a proud family that is also very, very encouraging. That makes me want to keep doing more and keep giving more. At that time, being a teenager, I had quite few hobbies, mainly artistic hobbies. I could say I'm very keen on music, dancing, stuff like that, that really nourish the soul, first of all. I've had quite supporting parents to whom I can always share, and they have always made me believe in myself, as I was saying. At some point, I think when I was 15 years old, maybe, that's when I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, you know what? I can make something out of myself more than Malek that is only in school. Being brilliant in school is amazing, but you have to do something outside of that because school might not always be the perfect place to shape yourself when it comes to soft skills. Mainly, we need soft skills in today's world. You can be the most brilliant person in your school, in your class, but if you don't have enough soft skills, if you don't have enough adaptability when it comes to society, you might not really find your chance when you go outside, professionally speaking, or even socially speaking. And so at that moment, when I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, I can be more, I can do more, I can give more. And at that time, I also started seeing the world, when you start to grow up, when you start to be more mature, and you realize that there are many things happening in the world that we can change. There are many things and many areas in which we can make a positive impact because it lacks the impact. So, starting to grow up seeing things like that had made me realize that I can do more and I want to do more and I have to do more for a better world. That's when I started to involve myself in organization, associations, and youth clubs and that's actually when my journey started to be able to become the person that I am today, that is still growing and learning and becoming even better one day, hopefully.
Participated in different program, in different international program. I see that you were an ambassador one time to the United Nations, something like that. Uh, so
Yes.
could you expand on that a bit more because you have done quite a lot of interesting things.
Sure. So let's start talking about that field specifically that is diplomacy related. So I've started my experience in diplomacy about 4 years ago when I got involved in Model United Nations and diplomatic organizations that are international. I started as an ambassador for the Model United Nations in 2023, and then evolving. I started evolving really quickly. And by the end of the year, I became an international director on the international board of the development department. That experience specifically having to lead a very diverse and a very big team. So we're talking about 200 people from more than 80 nationalities, and being able to guide, being able to lead with generosity, with wisdom, with kindness also. That was an experience that has shaped me personally, seeing the outcome of that, seeing the people that recognize me from all over the world with positive impact, with any time that I have talked to them and I have made a change in their personalities or have made a positive impact on them. And then on a second level, that's the global impact of it itself. So we've had conferences in many places, in many countries, such as Turkey, for example, in which I have been personally present, where it was a platform to gather people from all over the world to really negotiate and to discuss global issues today. So we're still talking about issues and goals that are aligned with the SDGs, with the Sustainable Development Goals. And so the issues that were discussed in that aspect, they were also in this context, speaking about water scarcity, speaking about women empowerment in underdeveloped areas, speaking about having the need to build microeconomies for people to be able to make a living. So speaking about wars, arms trafficking, people's trafficking. These are issues that all the young people and all the older generations and the new generations have got to be aware of, because we need that. And even if you don't involve yourself in there, it's going to impact you. So you might as well want to be in there. You might as well want to be involved there, so that you would be aware, first of all, of the situation, to be able to save yourself, to protect yourself and the people around you, and the people who need you somewhere far from where you are, but they do need you, they do need your voice, because they don't have a voice for themselves. So you have got to be that voice for the voiceless. And that was my mission, if I would say, at that time and that experience.
That's so interesting. That's so interesting. I'm trying to understand now that you were growing up in a family where you are pretty comfortable, like you said. They took care of you, they sort of inspire you, and all of that. Why were you not just simply at home, staying there and enjoying what you might call the shelter of the family? Then instead, you are going there trying to make a change in the world. Why did you take that decision?
I think that it's mainly because of the good communication that we have in my family. Being a teenager, I remember my mother and my father. As I was saying, being a teenager, I remember my father and my mom having mature conversations with me as if I was an adult. So in those conversations, we were able to talk about actually issues that are happening in the world. We were able to talk about wars. They were able to transmit to me the information about what is this world that we're living in, with its good and bad side. And so being able to discuss these things with my family, being able to navigate through the internet and asking them questions about, hey, what's happening in Palestine? What's happening in Congo? What's happening in those areas that are conflict affected zones? And they were able to explain to me what's going on. When I see a person, when I see another girl, for example, that is different from me, and I have to ask them, what's going on with her? Why is that girl having a red eye, for example? Why does she have patches all over her body? And they were to explain to me violence against women, for example. That's when I started to build my character in the sense of wanting to be a change maker. So I think mainly, if I am to give credit to who I am for today, that would be my parents and their ability to integrate me in today's world in a very very open-minded way, very open-spirited way, for which I can say that I'm very grateful for today.
All right, that is a great one. That is a great one. The parents are usually they are our first teacher. They are our first everything. when a child is born, the first thing that he or she try to talk about is mom, mom, papa. So you begin to sort of model those that are in front of you. So yeah, it's good that we also give credit to them. We celebrate them for who they are, for the impact they have made in our life. That is fundamentally important. Thank you so much for sharing that. And because you talked a lot about the politics and what is happening in the world, of course, we are talking about diplomacy as an aspect of the conversation just now. Okay, I can see that you are still a young woman. Of course, you didn't tell me your age, but tell me, how old were you in 2011 during the Arab Revolution? Because Tunisia played an important role there. I'm trying to understand if that could have also have an effect in how you make your judgment today. Tell me more about that.
Indeed. So usually I always try to keep my age for myself, but recently I've decided to let me be open about it. And that time I was quite young. Right now I'm in my early 20s. And in 2011, I was quite young, I think about 10 years, maybe 11 years, I think about 10 years, something like that. So not really aware of what's going on. Uh, I'm quite sad that I wasn't really aware of what's going on because that was happening around me and I didn't really understand what's going on. But later on, with conversations being held, things like that, I got to understand Tunisia's role when it came to the Arab Spring and what happened in 2011 and the revolution and all of that. I think I'm very proud of my people who have always been a very solid people when it comes to facing injustice, when it comes to saying no when something is not really good for us. So that could be, these are my roots. So they definitely do have a thing in the person I am today.
All right. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, I was suspecting that. Sometimes we are product of our history. Nobody can take away that from us. Whether we like it or not, whether we are aware of it or not, we are product of what have happened to us. We are formed by then. Our philosophy, our principles, our idea of life are usually formed by what have happened to us. Otherwise, it is impossible for us to know what we were not exposed to, what we were never taught, or what we have never experienced. So it is natural. So I was sort of suspecting that, and it's good that you made mention of it. Even though, of course, you were quite young at the time. But since we are also within the era of youth advocacy, because in Africa today, or let's say in the world generally, there is lack of quality leadership, so that a lot of people are sort of aspiring to the day that they can have more quality leadership, because we know what quality leadership can mean for a people, for a continent like Africa, for example, where we are both coming from. So when you go around talking about diplomacy, and I want to believe that you're organizing conferences or you are participating in them, uh, are young people in Tunisia bringing out this conversation to sort of, not because we want to repeat it, but because we want to learn from it. History is for us to help us correct what can possibly happen. Because the people there went to the street not because they were happy to do that. It's because they were driven to the brink of breaking. They want to save their country, their society. That is why they did what they do. They did what they did. Now, the lesson therefore could be, what can we do so that we don't get to that point again, so that people don't get to the street again? So I think maybe that is the role of the younger generation of today, in that this world belongs to them. That is literally true. Therefore, they need to learn from the past. They need to dust out the archive and use it to reflect and sort of ask the tough question. What have happened before now? Where are we now? And what is going to happen after now? So I'm trying to sort of understand that. What do you do with those information that have happened before when you talk with young people of your time?
That's a great question. I think I have got 3 points to mention in here. First thing, I believe that, first of all, if I am to link your question to diplomacy specifically, the future of diplomacy is not just in conferences. It's in classrooms, it's in refugee camps, it's everywhere. So these people, wherever they are, I'm talking about young generations, they have got to be aware when it comes to when we talked about effective leadership and also diplomacy, because they quite are interlined and intersected in some points. If we are talking about the Tunisian people themselves or the Tunisian youth, I would say that they are very, very interested when it comes to building an effective leadership or capacity building specifically, because I can see them. I can see what the Tunisian youth are doing. I am with them. I am in them, and I work with them. I see them everywhere. I'm connected to the young generations of the young generation of Tunisia, and I can tell that I'm very optimistic about the future coming, whether it is for Tunisia or for Africa in general. I'm going to come to that. But Tunisians specifically, very open-minded. Maybe it's also because of the geographical place in which we are located. We're quite close to everywhere, to Europe, to the Middle East, to we are in North Africa, to Africa itself. So I think this had in some way or in many ways affected how we view the world, our perspective on it, what we aspire to be, our vision for a better Tunisia. Tunisian youth are working. They are doing the good job. They are doing the good work for a better Tunisia, and I can assure that. And this is something I'm very proud of. Now, Tunisia is also part of Africa, the biggest community or the biggest nation. I always say, and I will keep saying, Africa is the biggest nation or the strongest nation. We have everything that we need to go to be outstanding, to be so strong together. We just need the connections. We need to build Pan-African programs that allow Africans, whether it's from the north, east, west, or south, to be connected together and to have programs together for us to discover each other. I think at some point maybe there could be some let's say less connection between the parts of Africa. This is something sad to see, but I think that what we should do right now as young leaders, young African leaders, is to change that and to build Pan-African programs to make us come together to build something. Africa is the greatest nation. We have the resources, we have the minds, we have the capacities, we have everything. We should just take care of it. We should just have it in us and share it with each other so that we can make something out of ourselves. I've noticed that in international conferences, most of the delegates would be Africans. And this is something every time I see, I get really proud of, because Africans are really doing something. African leaders, African youngsters, young leaders, they are doing something and they're trying to make an impact. They're going outside, they're going there. They are present in international conferences. They are discussing world issues and global issues. So I think that these are some really good signs that we are building something, that we can build something out of the African nation and African people, all of us, in all our shades, in all our colors, in all our mindsets, religions, differences. These are really beautiful things that we just need to accept each other. We need to love each other, take care of each other, and have like stay hand in hand with each other, because we can do wonders together.
Absolutely, absolutely, we can do wonders together. Yeah, the diversity that we have in the continent is actually what makes it very unique. There's over 54 countries in one continent. It is unique in many ways. An astrophysicist was saying that if you were looking for the dullest people in the world, you will find them in Africa. But if you are looking for the smartest people in the world, you will find them in Africa. He said, if you are looking for the slowest people in the world, you will find them in Africa. But if you're also looking for the smart, though the fastest people in the world, of course, demonstrated by Olympics and the data's out there, you will find them in Africa. So we basically have all the shades of life of the humanity. So it is important that we also appreciate that it's not a defect, it's an advantage. It is not something that we should be ashamed, but it's something that we should appreciate. That we have it round 360 degree. So yeah, I
Exactly.
sort of really appreciate you mentioning that. Now I'm sort of curious, no? Because you have been an ambassador to the United Nations or the country ambassador to the United Nations, if you sort of can clarify that. But what I want to go there is how maybe the program that you were having or you have been exposed to, uh, how you see them be translated from paper to reality, from conferences to the ground, so that when we say we need good leader, we move from us saying it to us having it. What do you say about that based on what you know, based on what you see?
Exactly. That's an amazing question. I'm really glad that we got to tackle that point. Having by the way, I was Tunisia's ambassador to the Model United Nations, and then I was the regional director of North Africa and the Middle East, and then North Africa and East Africa. And then I was just an international director, so I can just take care of everything in a whole. Now, when it comes to your question, which I really appreciate, thank you so much for tackling that point. That's one of my purposes, actually. After being present in many significant conferences when it comes to United Nations simulations or United Nations General Assemblies simulations, stuff like that, I've actually realized that the real impact doesn't happen in the conference room. It happens, it's what happens after leaving the room. So you've got the resolution, you have acquired the knowledge as a delegate, for example, or a first timer, or an aspiring diplomat. You have gained the knowledge, you now have the data, you have negotiated problems or your motion, or like at the end of the day, you have gained something. Now, that thing that you have gained, how much are you willing to implement it where you are or somewhere else where it's actually needed? And usually, I do like to monitor the delegates that we have in our conferences, and I'd like to see what impact are they going to do after leaving the conference and going back to their home countries. Speaking of that, as I told you in the beginning, I will be making a scoop, a flash news, that I am launching my diplomatic organization. It's going to be called the Global Diplomatic Organization. I'll be the founding president of it. It would be a platform that gathers people from everywhere. It's a global organization from everywhere, young leaders, young people who are striving for personal development, who are striving for a global positive impact, aspiring diplomats. This will be their platform to develop themselves, to make the impact that they are willing to do. So we will be working on three main axes. The first axis would be the capacity building, and that would be through the trainings for the team, trainings for youth. I've got some really solid trainers. I'm a soft skills trainer myself, so I'm very optimistic about the outcome that will be coming from these training sessions that would be held within the organization. The second axis would be diplomacy, through the UN simulation conferences, where we will be having or inviting some really high professionals when it comes to diplomatic experts, when it comes to ambassadors, to consuls, that will be present with us to share their knowledge, to share their experience, and to inspire and to guide and to be mentors to those delegates that would be present with us in the conferences. Of course, we will be having many destinations, so maybe after the launching itself, we would be having the website where everybody can just look at that and see the next destinations for the conferences. And the third, and I think this is the axis that we're talking about right now, which is the humanitarian axis, which is the fact that I don't want everything we talk about in the conference or the resolutions that we get in the conference to stay in the conference room. I want that to get outside, to be implemented in refugee camps. I'm really willing to have delegates go into refugee camps to see on site what's going on, to have hand-on experiences, what's going on in those refugee camps, and to hear the stories of refugees and immigrants and what happened to them and what made them there, and their stories about the wars that they have lived in. I've been there someday in the refugee of Lebanon, hearing the stories of Palestinian displaced people and what happened to them previously, which is happening right now in Gaza, right now, the genocide that's currently ongoing. These are things, when I look at wars, when I look what's happening, the conflicts, whether it's in the Middle East or in Africa or in Asia or in any other place, these are things that make me keep going because I know how urgent these issues are. I know that now we have an urgent calling for young leaders, for young diplomats, for young change makers. From these people, they need our voice. And so we need to be there for them. We need to be able to expand our horizons and our thinking, to hear them and to be able to transmit their voice to those who can help them, whether it's us, whether it's maybe world leaders, whether it's talking about UN officials, the people who can actually interfere and make a difference. They need us as much as we need them to have a purpose in our lives. They need us to be their voice because at some point they are voiceless. And this is very important. This is why I have made sure to include that specific axis of humanitarian action in our list of program because that is very important.
Thank you so much for that. That is a really laudable project. I'm looking forward to learning more about it, and I believe that we'll have time to be able to come back to that conversation and talk more about it. Because of course, this is why we are here in Obehi Podcast. Sometimes we do multiple episodes with a particular with one guest. I remember, for example, that our guests that have done more than 5 episodes together, and of course, we still have things to talk about. And because I don't subscribe to the idea that okay, when you are talking about something as important as diplomacy, just come and talk about it in 5 minutes. You cannot even barely scratch the surface. So we need time to be able to talk about things that are important for us. So for that, of course, we can certainly come back to it again on another occasion to explore more. Now, I'm trying to, okay, listen, I'm not trying to put you on the fire. I know you are not the politician, so, but it's okay. We are talking about politics, talking about diplomacy, talking about international relations and all of that. So some of these questions also come at some time. I'm trying to sort of ask you, like, where do you see that we have challenges? Is it in the PowerPoint, in the conference, or in the implementation? Because in the conference, everything is beautiful. We have these eloquent speeches that are made everywhere. In the PowerPoint, that are colored, that are all of it. They're all fine. They're all fine. They're all valid. But in the implementation, they are not there. Whether you are talking about the bringing the United Nations end to hunger, or talking about end to climate change, for example, or whether you're talking about even the developmental project that whether the United Nations have or the different countries have, at the end of the day, it ends there in the table. It doesn't really go to the ground because for how long now have we been talking about reducing, what is it, the poverty level of certain country? But they are still there. Somebody was making an analysis I was reading that I think throughout the period of the Cold War or something like that, that the United States spent about $10 trillion for armament. And this is something that there was not even a guarantee that this war was going to happen. With $10 trillion, the guy was saying, what can you do with that? He said he can buy everything in the United States, including the building, the school, the infrastructure, apart from the land. He can pay for everything, which is to say that it's not that we don't have the money to be able to solve the world problem, but it is only beautiful in the paper. In practice, we don't do it, not because we cannot do it. In terms of producing food so that people can have food to eat, in terms of making it possible for people to be able to navigate or migrate or journey in the world. But instead, we still have all these people that are dying in the Mediterranean Sea, able to cross to Europe because in their country that is crisis, they cannot live in peace. Therefore, they are running away. But we see all these big multinational and this big government in the world watching them just die. Thousands and thousands of people die in the Sahara Desert to cross to Europe. And they die in the Mediterranean. So we see many of them being tortured. It's not that we cannot solve the problem, but we just are not solving the problem. On paper, we solve the problem, but in reality, it is not solved. Again, I'm not putting you on the fire for that, but just because we are just talking. So I'm trying to understand your take on that.
Yes. No, absolutely. You're not putting me on any fire. What you said is actually the reality of things. Indeed, it's easy to find solutions on papers, but what is the cost of implementing them, or what are the challenges of implementing them on ground? That's the biggest challenge itself. Exactly. You're absolutely right. Finding solutions on paper is often the easiest part, where we can just map out the perfect intervention and policy or business model in theory, for example. But once you step into the real world, things get far more complex. And it's quite where the implementation is where good ideas are either tested, transformed, or abandoned, because there are many ideas that were eventually abandoned at the end of the day because the implementation was very hard to do. Now, when it comes to the challenges, I think, and by the way, I do think that there's a solution to that. I will come to that later. One of the biggest challenges for implementation, especially in underdeveloped or conflict-affected areas or regions, is that policies or projects often don't take into account the local context. You cannot just copy paste a solution that worked in one place and expect it to succeed elsewhere. Cultural dynamics, trust, infrastructure gaps, and even simple logistical issues like access to clean water or reliable transportation, they can change everything. So, in my experience, even with something as simple as distributing superfoods, for example, in underdeveloped areas, I mentioned superfoods specifically because that's what I'm working on as an entrepreneur. We will come to that later. I'm very sure of that. But my personal experience when it comes to distributing that, which is actually a product that can save many lives by fighting malnutrition, we're not just facing supply chain challenges. We're also dealing with the regulatory approvals, policy limitations, education gaps, and sometimes even local suspicions or stigma. That's why, and this is the solution, it's really essential to build bridges. It's really essential to build connections between policy and community and to engage local leaders, to train people on ground, to partner with people in there. I think that the reason why partnerships for peace are integrated in the 17 SDG is not for granted. There's a reason behind it, and I think this could be one of those reasons, because um, it's important. It's really important to partner with locals there to be able to attend your objective or your goal, actually locally or globally on another level.
For that, I appreciate that, Emily. Um, was there a particular situation that sort of touched on this area that we are talking about now, where maybe there was this mm, call it a copycat projects. Maybe something have worked in Washington. They say, oh well, if you have worked in Washington, then it work in Abuja. Let's just transport it to Abuja or transport it to Dar es Salaam or transport it to, I don't know, Cairo. It's going to work there, but they forget that we are dealing with different people. That people sometimes are the most complex thing to manage because we are so sophisticated in our way, our law, our philosophy, our way of life, our understanding. If we design a project without putting in at the level of the people, the understanding of the people, what the people really want, not what we think they want, it will be difficult to bring it to fruition. Because the people might even sabotage the effort because they don't understand that this is for them. But imagine if we could develop the project with them in the mind. Therefore, they are in the project. They decide what they want. They will protect it because it is for them. It is built on their level. Now, let me give you an instance, a kind of a picture that might sort of help you better understand that, then of course I will ask your take on that. There have been many, many projects that have been developed in Washington, in Vatican, in Rome, in Paris, that were exported to Africa. It have never worked. To the point that some people are even thinking that maybe this project were never designed to work. But it is not true in all the cases. It's just that the people that designed the project didn't pay attention to the people they were designing it for. Therefore, you cannot export development. Development need to be local all the time. It need to be the resources of the local people equal to what the people want. If we do the mathematics like that, the result is going to be a development because the people are doing it. But if we base a development based on, say maybe for example, you build the development based on how you are going to move a train. But what if where you are going that is not even train there? Or maybe the people don't even value train. Maybe what the people are really enjoying is that moment that they are staying together walking around. Therefore, we must build a transportation that is going to put that in context. We cannot say just because in Tokyo it is very fast, that it must be very fast, a development must be very fast when we develop it in Ghana. We need to first of all go to Ghana and ask, how do the people live? Okay, now what I wanted to share with you that this project that is currently going on in Italy. It's called the Piano Mattei, the Italian Mattei plan, about the $5.5 billion euro that the Italian government is putting in place. So one of the critics of the Mattei plan have been that many Africans in Italy were never involved in this project. But this is a project that is designed to bring development to Africa. But how come in Italy there is 1.2 million Africans here? Among these people are academia, professors. Okay, there are also stupid people here of African living in Italy. But there are very qualified people working as medical doctor, researchers, students, people with doctorate degree. They have PhD here. They need to be involved. Italians are not better than Africa in terms of African issue. Of course, I'm just using that one as an example, but this is something that Washington do every day. Paris do every day, that they just design the project and they are bringing it to export it to Africa, hoping that it will work. It never work. It will never work. If we want the system to work, we must develop it in Africa based on the African interest, based on the African people, based on the African resources, based on the level of the African people. Therefore, it can work because it is a project by the people for the people. I don't know if I'm overstating that.
Exactly. I totally approve what you are saying. That's 100% right. And these are some really golden words. I would just add something from my personal point of view. That's why, for me, every solution has to be field tested. Not just well drafted. So whether I'm working on a diplomatic initiative or launching a product or a service as a social entrepreneur, I have got to ask myself, who will use this and what do they really need? Is it what they need? Is it adaptable with the dynamic of where they are? And so once I got these answers, it's kind of like a study of the whole thing if it's a project. So once I get my answers, and everything is positive, then I can launch and I can expect an outcome and an impact from that. But if the answers are not there, if there's anything that is not quite granted, then that we would just be having a misfunctioning or no outcome at all, like it's not going to work.
Thank you so much for that. Now, I think we can talk about another point that also is important for us here. You were touching on entrepreneurship just now, or social entrepreneurship actually, and you were making mention of slow food, or is it superfood? But anyway, let's go there. Let's go there. What are you doing within the social entrepreneurship?
Sure. So I am the CEO of a company called World Diamond Health. It's a health-centered company. We basically produce organic spirulina. Now, when I say spirulina, there are people who can understand what I'm talking about, but there are people who also don't understand. So I'd love to explain. Spirulina is a nutrient. It's one of the most nutrient-dense superfoods on the planet, actually. It's an algae. It's rich in protein, iron, and essential vitamins. So it has the potential to fight malnutrition, boost immunity, and support recovery in extreme conditions. When it comes to my mission with World Diamond Health, or WDH for briefer name, my vision isn't just to sell a product, but it's to build a distribution system. This distribution system, I wanted to reach the most vulnerable, and I want to take spirulina where it's needed most, to refugee camps, to served schools, to conflict affected zones, and help improve health outcomes when healthcare access is limited. And this is why I chose spirulina specifically. The profit part, that's that is granted, that's there too, but what is more important, or my mission behind it, or my vision behind it, is that noble mission, is the fact that I wanted to reach people where they need it. And I do have visions right now. I am building visions based on the current information or the current data of the world right now. We have many war affected zones. We have, I'm planning to get into Middle East first. What's happening, the genocide and the starvation happening in Gaza right now. I think after some while, when everything settles, I'd love to get there. I'd love to distribute spirulina because they need it. They needed to recover as a people, as a nation, and humanitarian and on a human level. We are talking too. Now, if I am to talk about the link between business and humanitarian work, as I was mentioning, I believe the future of entrepreneurship is humanitarian. So if your product can nourish people, then it should reach beyond borders and beyond markets. That's the kind of legacy I personally want to build, that is something regenerative and not just profitable. And
Oh,
when it, yes,
okay, no, sorry, I thought we were finished there. You
yes,
see, what you're saying is really vitally important for us today as Africans and as people that are coming from the south of the world. So,
yeah.
how much emphasis are you laying on that? Looking at the fact that we have the youngest demography by young people and all of that in our population. Tell me more about that.
So I think that young people, they can do, they, young people actually, they have a lot to do. Yes, we can get inspired from the other generations, we can get inspired from the older generations, but young minds today, they are more adapted to the today's world, especially with the technologies coming in line with what's going on right now, the AIs, the technology, the evolvement. So young people, they can use that effectively to produce something or to produce an outcome. And so I don't think that being young and having an impact and being a social entrepreneur or making social impact while mixing it with profit, they do interline. There's nothing that don't interline or there's no lack of intersection maybe between all of these things. I hope I understood your question. If I didn't, please ask me again.
No, 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 no. It's perfectly fine. I was actually looking at the fact that, because in Africa we have the youngest population by demography, that it's a percentage that is really extremely encouraging. I think about 70% of African population are young people of other 30 of that 20. And if we talk about the people that are going to be put to work, these are the people. And if we talk about even if you are talking of military, these are the people that are also going to fight if they were fight, for example. So these are the people that are going to be put at the construction, in the building, in infrastructure. These are because you can't put a 70-year-old man to be doing construction work, no. So for a country that have a young population, they do have a huge advantage in the sense that if we invest more on these people, then these people can take care of they can take care of themselves and also take care of the age population, or like maybe what you usually will have in Europe, where a great percentage of the population is mostly old people. Which again, depending on who is able to understand the mathematics, the reason why there are a lot of Africans being encouraged to come to Europe, because uh, this is not what you people usually understand. Europe need Africa, Okay, I want you to hear me
Absolutely.
very well. European economy need young African here, but they don't say it like that. They put it in, there is this complex economic structure of creating a demand, then that is going to be a supply. But there is a way we can also manipulate the demand in the sense that the demand can, the product that you have can almost be seen as worthless so that it can be priced cheap. But at the end of the day, you need it. But if you don't manipulate the data, then you will pay a higher price. That is what is happening. So because the population of Europe here is age dominated, they need to mix it up with young blood. They need it to function in the parastatus. It is not, I'm not just making it up. But if they were to pay for this labor, it would be very high for them. Therefore, there is a way to manipulate the data to show that, okay, this immigration that are just coming to take work. But if the European could do the work, they don't need people. They cannot do the work because there are a lot of things that need to be done to make the economy function. So flipping the conversation around again, because Africa have these young people, an army of young people, I think it would be important if we were to invest on them. Maybe turn most of them into entrepreneur. You see, these are also things that are not even rocket science because a government should determine what they want from their people. If in your population, among your population that is lack medical expert, maybe the education can focus more on that to train more people to become medical doctor. But maybe there are no infrastructure. Maybe we can target that area in terms of education. So I think if we are making this informed decision in terms of how we manage the population and the economy, we will go far because we will leverage the power that we already have. We know that we have resources. We also know that we have human resources, but we're not putting it in place. And I think, of course, it goes back to what we were saying before that we don't have quality leader because for you to be able to do the mathematics, which is actually very simple arithmetic, you need people that are of quality in that job, people that are able to see far. But if we don't see them, then we are going to have some challenges because now they have the misplacement of priority and the people will suffer. That is what is happening there. But let's look at it this way. How might we tap into the younger population from those that you are reaching so that most of them can be involved more in entrepreneurship and in social entrepreneurship for that matter? Now, before you respond, I want you to pay attention to something. I think, was it in 2010 or so, Dabisa Moyo, an economist, a Zambia born economist, of course, she's very popular in the United States, wrote a book that she titled How the West Was Lost. That was an interesting book because Dabisa Moyo at the time was making comparison between Western capitalism and the Eastern capitalism, of course, looking at China, for example, in that the European or the Euro-Western capitalism is capital intensive in the sense that these are people that don't have a lot of people, but they have a lot of money. Therefore, it is natural for them to be more of capital-intensive investment where fewer people can make a lot of money, but they will be very, very rich, like the people of Elon Musk of the world, the Jeff Bezos of the world. Now, China trying to play a catch-up cannot play that kind of game. Instead, China focus on where they have strength. Where they have strength was not the money, but the people. Instead, they play a labor-intensive capitalism. It's still, okay, a bit of capitalism and communism, but they needed to play to their strength. Their strength, they have more than 1 billion people, they needed to play to that. So that at the end of the day, the calculation, fewer people will make money, but they will not make high amount of money. But when you make the calculation at the end of the day, maybe for example, compared to the United States that is about 300 million people, the China will be rising. Therefore, they are empowering their people to rise. And these fewer people, this high amount of people that are getting small amount of money, eventually will rise and the economy will rise and the people will take care of themselves and they will grow, they will go far. So I think Africa can also do the same. Either we can empower the people. We will reduce this idea of somebody becoming very rich. Maybe a lot of people can become rich on an average, but by the time we make the calculation, the entire continent can actually rise because it means more people will have resources to be able to take the decision. Therefore, they can go far. So the question, therefore, is how do we leverage the young population in Africa Because now, of course, this is tied to the youth empowerment, social entrepreneurship, and the rest of that. So what do you say about that?
Brilliant, amazing question. Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk about this because one of the things I care deeply about is investing in young Africans, not just as beneficiaries of change, but as the actual drivers of it. Our continent is full of brilliant, creative, and resilient young people, but too often they're treated like they need to be saved rather than empowered. I believe entrepreneurship is one of the strongest tools we have to unlock that potential. When we give young people the right environment, access to resources, mentorship, training, and most importantly, the freedom to try and fail, they become problem solvers for their own communities. They stop waiting for opportunity and start creating it. That's part of why I, at some point and recently, launched an initiative like Stand Up 3.0 in partnership with the GCI, the Junior Chamber International. The Junior Chamber International is a platform that gathers young leaders and change makers. Now, the main goal of Stand Up 3.0 was to implement entrepreneurship in schools. And we're talking about youngsters, they are aged from 12 to 16 years old. And what we did is that we basically gave them a series of training sessions about quite some fields when it comes to soft skills, leadership, emotional intelligence, self-confidence, common to entrepreneurship, business model canvas, the financial aspect, marketing, pitching. So what we did there is that we want these young people to have that mindset because entrepreneurship starts with a mindset and legacy also starts with a mindset. The mindset of being an entrepreneur, the mindset of solving problems, the mindset of not waiting for a solution to come, but creating it. And once you do that, you make the impact. And once you make the impact, you create value. That creation of value is what we need today so that the young people of Africa, they have something to say about themselves. Now, that was the Stand Up 3.0. I just wanted to talk about it briefly. It was an amazing program. We had an amazing outcome. Young people pitching their business ideas, young people. We did give some financial aid too, and we're actually really excited to see the outcome of that when they reach their legal age where they can open their companies. And I'm quite really, really eager to see what's gonna come after that. Um, Now coming back to the idea, I don't just want to talk about youth empowerment and it multiplies. I also think that it's time we stop treating entrepreneurship like it only belongs in Silicon Valley. In Africa, entrepreneurship looks different. Sometimes it's a solar-powered hair salon in a village, sometimes it's a digital health startup, sometimes it's a young girl selling food online. We need to invest in all of that and for whether it's formally or informally, because these young people are already shaping the future. So, for me personally, investing in youth entrepreneurship isn't just good economics, it's stability, it's peace building. When young people have agency, they become protectors of their community, not threats to them. And I want to spend my life building more of that.
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate you for that. I appreciate also the work that you're doing for the convention, most importantly. That is really very important. Of course, like I was saying before, this is something that we can always come back to on another occasion because there is we need time to be able to explain these things. All right. So for people that are listening to you now, they want to be able to learn how to connect to you, how to reach you. Why not also how to support what you're doing? How can they reach out to you?
Sure. So I'm available on all social media platforms. It's Melek Belloumi. I think my name would be featured on the cover of this podcast. Everyone is welcome to talk to me, especially on LinkedIn or through the email. And I'm very willing to help. Everyone is welcome. Also, stay tuned for the launching of the Global Diplomatic Organization. I am very, very optimistic about it, and I believe that in this context, it would be an amazing platform for young Africans to nourish, to flourish, and to just shine brighter, like we always do. This is Melek Belloumi. One final note, maybe I would leave personally, is that um, in any context or in any field on whatever thing I'm doing, whether I'm moderating a panel, whether I'm being a jury in a pitching competition, or just doing my work like a youth activity, I always ask myself, did I leave people better than I found them? If the answer is yes, then I am on the right path. And I hope everybody can do the same so that we can always grow with each other and evolve together. Thank you so much.
Beautiful. I love that. I love that. That is a powerful philosophy. A powerful philosophy to follow in life. I really think that is really, really, really beautiful. Thank you so much for that. And of course,
You
for all
are
of you that
welcome.
have listened to the end of this program, we say thank you so much for taking your time to listen. We believe that you have gotten value from here. You hear what Melek said, that she is happy to leave you better than she found you. That is so beautiful. That is so beautiful. And we believe that we have left you better than we met you. If that is true, please share this video to other people you believe might also have get something from it, being able to learn from it, being able to see one or two things that they can apply in their own life, in what they are doing, in their business, in their advocacy, in their being able to organize themselves and also organize other people. And why not? If you want to learn how to use storytelling in your business, reach out to me. We have the story to asset framework that is available for you so that you can use storytelling to be able to attract the right audience. We are tired of people just quoting 30 or 20%. We want you to be able to use story to reach people. Tell the people who you are. Let them know, understand why you are doing what you are doing. If they are the right people, they will come to you. If they're not the right people, let them go their own way. You don't need to speak to everybody. There are over 5 billion people on the internet today. You possibly cannot speak to all of them. So hold your story and use it to position yourself wherever you are in the world. So make sure you reach out. So thank you so much again, Melek. It's been a pleasure here.
It was a pleasure being with you. Thank you so much, dear, for the invitation. Looking forward for more conversations, and it was a really amazing conversation with you.